Story 1. Everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but not to their own facts. Story 2. I wish there was a way to know you are in the good old days before you've actually left them. Andy Bernard. Story 3. This thing we call failure is not the falling down but the staying down. Mary Pickford. Never stay down, you all. Stay strong. Story 4. Heal your wounds before you bleed on someone who didn't cut you. Story 5. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. John F. Kennedy, 1962. Story 6. The difference between genius and stupidity is that genius has its limits. Einstein. Story 7. The most well-known is the Maya Angelou quote. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I think about it every day in my interpersonal interactions. When I consider what I want from life and what I would call a life well lived, I can give 100 different answers on any given day. One constant is that I want to make a positive impact on the lives I touch. I may never live a very impactful or important life, but one thing I can do is avoid making anyone's life harder because of how I treat them. Story 8. You can't do much about the length of your life, but you can about its width and depth. Story 9. In the depths of winter I found there was, within me, an invincible summer. Albert Camus. Story 10. Osho was a controversial man, but he said something I will never forget. If you love a flower, do not pick it up, because if you pick it up, it dies and it ceases to be what you love. So if you love a flower, let it be. Love is not about possession. Love is about appreciation. Story 11. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. We should all remember this. Story 12. It does not make a difference whether you are right or wrong. You just have to make a decision. Story 13. There will come a day when you pick up your child, hold them in your arms, and when you put them back down, it will be the last time you carry them. Story 14. A healthy man wants dozens of things. A sick man wants one. Take care of yourself. Story 15. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me, you can't get fooled again. George W. Bush. Story 16. You never have enough coffee until you can thread a sewing machine while it's running. Story 17. Think of how stupid the average person is, and realize half of them are stupider than that. George Carlin. Story 18. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky. Michael Scott. Story 19. Don't let them take you to the second crime scene. In other words, fight like hell so some criminal doesn't take you to the place of their choosing. Story 20. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Widely attributed to Abraham Lincoln but actually written by Robert G. Ingersoll. Story 21. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist. That is all. Oscar Wilde. Story 22. War does not determine who is right. War determines who is left. Story 23. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Mike Tyson. Story 24. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Maya Angelou. Story 25. To the world you may be one person, but to one person you may be the world. Story 26. Suicide does not make the pain stop. It only transfers it to others. That thought stopped me before. Story 27. These are just a few. There are two types of people in the world. Those who want to know and those who want to believe. Knowledge by itself is neither inherently good nor bad. Distrust all in whom the impulse to punish is powerful. People who live in an age of corruption are both witty and slanderous. They know there are types of murder other than by dagger and assault. They also know that whatever is well said is believed. He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. That is the nature of all living things. A lion cannot defend against traps and a fox cannot defend against wolves. Therefore one must be a fox in order to recognize the traps, and a lion to frighten the wolves. How we live is so different from how we ought to live that if one studies only what should be done and not what is done, one will find the path to ruination rather than preservation. Hence the prince who wishes to retain his power must learn how not to be good, and be willing to use, or refrain from using, this knowledge as necessity requires. Story 28. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Excerpt from the poem Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. Story 29. In the show The Good Place, Chitty, one of the main characters, was talking about what might happen when we die, and this single quote has helped me so much with my fear of death. I will always love The Good Place. If you have never watched it, I highly encourage you to watch it. Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it, its height, the way the sunlight refracts when it passes through. And it is there. You can see it, you know what it is. It is a wave. And then it crashes on the shore and it is gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be, for a little while. It is one conception of death for Buddhists. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from and where it is supposed to be. Story 30. There are a few. 1. Do the best you can until you know better, then do better. Maya Angelou. 2. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. 3. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to for advice. Story 31. Live life by a dog's rules. If you cannot eat it or have sex with it, urinate on it. Story 32. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Rumi. Story 33. The most important relationship will always be the one with yourself. Story 34. Go quietly amid the noise and the haste and remember what peace there can be in silence. Story 35. I have to remember that some birds are not meant to be caged. Their feathers are just too bright. Story 36. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Story 37. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. Eleanor Roosevelt. Story 38. Perfect is the enemy of the good. Voltaire. Religion, when powerful, is coercive toward children and contemptuous of women, harmful to free inquiry, and ought to have a great deal on its conscience for the damage it has inflicted. Christopher Hitchens. Story 39. Insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. Story 40. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. Jesus. Story 41. I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. Mark Twain. Story 42. What other people think of me is none of my business. Random old dude. Story 43. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. Story 44. Everything will be okay in the end. If it is not okay, then it is not the end. Story 45. It's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice, according to my 9th grade biology teacher, Kermit the Frog. Story 46. Don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions. All the freaks contribute to the beauty of the world. Our lives are defined by opportunities, even the ones we miss. Story 47. Here is the world. Beautiful and terrible things will happen. Don't be afraid. Frederick Buechner. Story 48. We are a way for the universe to know itself. Carl Sagan. Story 49. Jesus loves you, but everyone else thinks you are an asshole. Story 50. You're not drunk if you can lie on the floor without holding on. Dean Martin. Story 51. Don't tell me the sky's the limit when there are footprints on the moon. P. Brandt. 1996. Story 52. It is possible to commit no mistakes and lose. That is not weakness. That is life. Story 53. Therapist here. Shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces. It underlines my entire therapeutic philosophy. Story 54. 3 can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead. I learned this in grade school, and it is absolutely true. People have others they trust. The only surefire way to keep a secret is for only one person to know it. Story 55. Build a man a fire and he is warm for the night. Light a man on fire and he is warm for the rest of his life. Story 56. I cannot remember where this is from, but it has stayed with me and I often share it with people who are stressed. If you can change it, do not worry. If you cannot change it, do not worry. Story 57. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. Story 58. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Aristotle. Story 59. I see the disinfectant knocks it out in 1 minute. Is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Donald J. Trump. Story 60. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you believe. Story 61. Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. Uncle Iroh. I saw it in my 30s, and those are some damn wise words. Story 62. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life. Story 63. A rose is a weed in a cornfield. Something my late father used to say to me. Story 64. The hate and violence that forged this nation will also lead to its undoing. Nat Turner. Story 65. On the way home from having a couple of teeth pulled before getting braces at about 13, my mother, who never cursed in front of me until I was about 16, screamed in traffic. It's like a bunch of monkeys fucking a football. Story 66. John Lennon said, "Don't hate what you don't understand." Story 67. Don't let your emotions outweigh your intelligence. I'm still working on this one. Story 68. Everyone here is giving such thoughtful answers, but here is mine. You are as straight as a peppermint. A quote from someone who had swirly, straight candy cane, and other peppermints. This was at least 2 decades ago, and there are times when I wonder what on earth that meant. Story 69. Why are you trying to make everyone happy when you already know you cannot? The problem is that you are still trying. Story 70. 2 things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I am not sure about the universe. Story 71. If not me, then who? That is a quote I live by every day. Story 72. I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose. Story 73. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Story 74. And then we are going to Washington, District of Columbia, to take back the White House. Hooray. Story 75. Life is what happens to you when you make other plans. John Lennon. Story 76. If you throw a rock into a pack of wolves, the one that barks is the one that got hit. It means the truth will offend a narcissist and they will reveal their true nature. Story 77. The true measure of a man is how he treats someone who can do him absolutely no good. Samuel Johnson. Story 78. It's better to regret something you have done than to regret something you haven't done. Story 79. The least important thing about her should be her looks. Story 80. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If I do not ask, the answer is automatically no. Story 81. The further you are from the customer, the less you care. Story 82. Above the desk in a high school classroom. I have done so much with so little for so long that I can do anything with nothing. Story 83. To be is to do, Socrates. To be or not to be, Shakespeare. Dubé, Sinatra. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, Scooby. Story 84. Poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. Story 85. This is so dumb, but I think about it every time I do the dishes. In the film Problem Children, before the boy is adopted, the head nun makes him wash all the dirty dishes. She says, "I want them spotless. I want to be able to see myself in them." He picks up one covered in grime and says, "This one sort of looks like you." It cracked me up as a kid and still does. Story 86. The sheep spend their whole lives fearing the wolf, only to be eaten by the shepherd. Story 87. I've always loved that line from the 1994 film The Crow. Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of all children. I believe the line originally comes from a 19th century author but was popularized by the movie. Story 88. That which is presented without evidence can be rejected without evidence. Story 89. The true measure of any society is how it treats its most vulnerable. When you are accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. Story 90. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you are going to get. Story 91. Taylor Swift said that you are not the opinion of someone who does not know you during her 1989 world tour in Columbus, Ohio, and I have never forgotten that moment. Story 92. Senator Kennedy, talking about former President Biden, said, "That guy stepped on every damned rake in the yard." Cher said, "I answer to two people, God and myself. Everybody else can go to hell." Story 93. Life is 90% what happens and 10% what you do, Lou Holtz. Story 94. All the problems we face in the United States today can be traced to an unenlightened immigration policy on the part of the American Indian. Pat Paulson. Story 95. Live free or die. Death is not the worst of evils. I like the context of the whole phrase, not just the New Hampshire motto. Story 96. Many who live deserve death, and some who die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Do not be so eager to deal out death in judgment, for not even the very wise can see all ends. I know I am paraphrasing. Story 97. To be alive is to be suffering, said the East Indian taxi driver on the show Transparent. Story 98. There is no problem that cannot be solved by a suitable application of high explosives. Story 99. And when I chose to live, there was no joy. It's just a line I crossed. It wasn't worth the pain my death would cost. So I was not lost or found. Dar Williams. Story 100. Poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. Story 101. The difference between the master and the student is that the master has failed more times than the student has ever tried. Story 102. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Benjamin Franklin. Story 103. If you fail, try again. After that, stop. No point in making a damn fool of yourself. Demotivational calendar quotes. Story 104. Give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he will eat for life. Story 105. People will always let you down. You would be better off being dependent on heroin, because it will never let you down. Scott Peck. Story 106. Men never do evil so completely and cheerfully as when they do it from religious conviction. Blaise Pascal. That is my favorite quote. But when I saw this posting, the first thing that came to mind was, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Henry David Thoreau. Cheers. Story 107. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. They know themselves much better than you do. Maya Angelou. Story 108. For those days when you don't think you can hang on much longer. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Mother Julian of Norwich. Story 109. You can be the sweetest peach on the tree. Some people don't like peaches. Story 110. Diamonds form under pressure. Dough rises when you let it rest. What you excel in may cripple another. Story 111. What's the most important step a man can take? The next one. Dalliner Colin. Story 112. Just because you are a lesbian does not make you less of a being. Marge Simpson. Story 113. I can resist anything except temptation. Carrie Fisher. Story 114. You'll only eat 3 meals a day, no matter how rich you are. Ray Charles said that after finding out his record producers had stolen thousands from his bank account. This quote kind of stays with me, maybe because I'm broke just like Mr. Charles was. Story 115. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Story 116. When the facts change, I change my opinion. What do you do, sir? Paul Samuelson. Story 117. Life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. John Lennon, Alan Saunders. Story 118. I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It is not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone. Robin Williams. May he finally rest in peace. Story 119. Khalil Gibran taught that much of our pain comes from holding on to things that no longer serve us. While dropping off donations at the local Salvation Army shelter, the captain showed me around and explained their policy. Residents may stay overnight, but they must leave in the morning to pursue work or education that leads to employment. He was kind and concluded, "We will walk with you as far as you want to go, but we will not carry you." He was absolutely right. Story 120. We judge ourselves based on our intentions and others on their actions. Story 121. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Maya Angelou. Story 122. It's not a lie if you don't believe it. George Costanza. Story 123. Stop waiting for the storm to pass and ask yourself, what can I do in the rain? Story 124. Be thankful for what you have. Many people have nothing. Story 125. Never enter into a battle of wits with someone who is unprepared. Story 126. From the Count of Monte Cristo. I maintain my pride in the face of men, but I abandon it before God, who drew me out of nothingness to make me what I am. I read that book once, in high school more than 30 years ago, and I never forgot that line. Story 127. As the duckling grew, his brothers and sisters laughed, pointed at him and called him ugly. But he was not ugly. The ugly duckling grew into a graceful snow-white swan, the most majestic creature on the pond. To this day, as the ducks swim, quack, and fly away, the beautiful swan secretly smiles, for he alone knows how beautiful it is to be different from the rest. Story 128. If you do not have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it again? Story 129. You're dumb as a mule and twice as ugly. If a strange man offers you a ride, take it. Story 130. You laugh because I am different. I laugh because you are all the same. Story 131. I would rather have a mind opened by wonder than one closed by belief. Story 132. The brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all. Story 133. I feel ridiculous, but life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you are going to get. Story 134. No man can wear one face to himself and another to the multitude without eventually becoming bewildered as to which is true. Story 135. Yesterday was history. Tomorrow is a mystery. But today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. Story 136. I saw an inscription in the Library of Congress on July 4, 1976, but did not note it. About 20 years later, I tracked it down, bought a souvenir book containing it, and memorized it so I would not lose it. As one lamp lights another, nor grows less, so nobleness enkindleth nobleness. Story 137. Do not sweat the petty things or pet the sweaty things. Story 138. Hope is a currency. It buys tomorrow. It gives us the strength to survive today. Story 139. Who am I? Why am I here? Vice Admiral James Bond Stockdale, during the 1992 vice presidential debate, was the running mate of third-party candidate Ross Perot. Barely a day goes by that I don't find myself repeating these words. Story 140. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. I made that up. Story 141. From Pulp Fiction. Well, let's not do that just yet. Story 142. Photography is like sex. Everyone has the equipment and thinks they are good at it. Story 143. Never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Story 144. The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject. Marcus Aurelius. Story 145. If you see someone without a smile, give them yours. My dad said that to me when I was about 16. I'll be 70 in a month and don't know where the quote originated. Story 146. When the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. Hunter S. Thompson. Story 147. Never attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. Story 148. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Story 149. You can work hard now and take it easy later in life, or you can take it easy now and work hard for the rest of your life. A random old man said this before I graduated high school. Story 150. Bravery is nothing more than making sure that you are the only one who knows you are terrified. Story 151. Men that fear you will fight for you. Men that love you will die for you. I had just been promoted to non-commissioned officer in the military, and a leader whom I really respected pulled me aside and gave me that advice. The bond between a leader and a subordinate is infinitely stronger when it is built on mutual respect. Story 152. It is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Story 153. Take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. Story 154. How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Alan Alexander Milne. Story 155. It is impossible to remake oneself without suffering. We are both the marble and the sculptor. Lewis Carroll. Story 156. If you go to bed with an itchy bum, you will wake up with a stinky finger. Story 157. May the bridges I burn light my way. Dylan McKay. Beverly Hills 90210. Story 158. Don't take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from. Story 159. Just because you are offended doesn't mean you are right. Ricky Gervais. Story 160. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Brody Bruce. Story 161. You accept the love you think you deserve. Perks of being a wallflower. Story 162. Being a genius is not knowing everything but knowing where to find the answers. Albert Einstein. Never argue with an idiot. People watching will forget who the idiot is. Mark Twain. Quotation marks were omitted to avoid errors. The point remains. Story 163. I have a running list, and for some of these I forgot the source or context, so good luck. Love with your heart, use your head for everything else. Captain D. I would have written a shorter letter had I had the time. Are you trying to achieve greatness, or just avoiding disappointment? Said while talking about pies versus cakes. Brennan Lee Mulligan. I will face God and walk backwards into hell. Tumblr post about something silly. How lucky are we to miss those still living? My preferred pronouns are you and me. Drinks and drunken friends are bad counselors. The best time to do something is 5 years ago. The second best time is now. That's not productive for my self-esteem. Big mouth, maybe. Get what you want, add what you need. Referring to food and dieting. Call it an ugly twink because it can't be topped. The only reason you should look into your neighbor's bowl is to make sure they have enough to eat. Louis C. K. Be peaceful, not harmless. Fights and arguments should be solved, not won when it comes to relationships. Waterboarding couldn't have gotten this out of me. Just funny. Aging is a privilege. If you have to choose between two options, go with the one that leads to a better story. Not always good advice. I'm glad you're doing better. I hope I am too. Don't look back in anger. Oasis. Marriages are not 50-50. Some days you'll be called upon to give more when they can't. Sometimes they will when you can't, maybe for weeks at a time. Marriage is taking that responsibility and doing it with pride because you love that person. I hope God plays fetch. I don't think I'll get there, but a man bearing my name will. So White, you got a fair trial. Have friends who make you a better person, not a bitter person. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. As someone who used to be a substitute teacher, this is spot on. Time is the most honest currency we have, and how we spend it tells you where our heart truly lies. For me, that is apparently League of Legends. Your future self is counting on you. Your past self believes in you. The most important step a person can take is the next one. Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. The most important words a person can say are, I will do better. Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. That's why a hammer has two sides. Self-awareness leads to self-loathing if you are only aware of your flaws. You also need to be self-aware of your good qualities. Just because you participate in something ironically does not make you immune to its psychological effects. I didn't think my old friends were racists, just edgy, until I found out they actually kind of believe the things they say. Justice will prevail, you say? Of course it will. Whoever wins the war becomes the law. Pain is inevitable. Misery is a choice. Not every day will be sunshine, but there will be sunshine again. Would you cheer for the winner or the horse who never gave up? In honor of Haru Urara, the horse who lost 113 races and never quit. If I die of cancer, then the cancer dies too. It's not a loss. It's a draw. Your life doesn't need a meaning. It just needs a purpose. Future me has it all figured out. He's out there happy and loved. I just need to give him the opportunity. I was in a dark place and needed a reason to keep going. Story 164. The skillful employer of men will employ the wise man, the brave man, the covetous man, and the stupid man. For the wise man delights in establishing his merit. The brave man likes to show his courage in action. The covetous man is quick at seizing advantages, and the stupid man has no fear of death. Sun Tzu. Story 165. What Bruce Lee said about being like water. I trained for 4 years under a waterfall and practiced being like water. I can confirm that now I am a waterbender. I have all the Katara merchandise I could find online, and I constantly sneeze 10 to 15 times a day, so I know I can waterbend through my nose and feel closer to her. Someone also said time is precious, and I have wasted yours with a nonsense story. Thank you for your time. Story 166. You don't stop playing with trains because you grow old. You grow old because you stop playing with trains. Story 167. The pain you feel today will be the strength you feel tomorrow. Baixtentacion. Story 168. Why call out the speck of sawdust in someone else's eye and ignore the plank of wood in your own? Stop worrying about how other people smell. Check your own shoes for dirt. Story 169. The one about be curious, not judgmental is so real. I try to live by that when I'm reading the news or something. It helps you chill out a lot. Story 170. When a crab loses its shell, it finds a new one. When a man loses his shell, he becomes one. Bonus. All anybody really wants is a little more than they can ever have. Story 171. Better to keep your mouth closed and let everyone think you're a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. Story 172. Rules should never make a prisoner of intelligence. Excessive pride is difficult to deal with, especially in older people who won't admit fault. Story 173. You can never say or be the wrong thing to the right person. Story 174. It is easy to hate. It is difficult to love. This is how the whole scheme of things works. All good things are difficult to achieve, and bad things are very easy to get. A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat, and 15 minutes ago you knew that humans were alone on this planet. Imagine what you will know tomorrow. We hate some people because we do not know them, and we will not know them because we hate them. Story 175. When people show you who they are, believe them. Maya Angelou. Story 176. You miss 100% of the shots you do not take. Wayne Gretzky. Story 177. Comparison is the thief of joy. Ever since I found that, it has never left me. Story 178. Thinking before acting is wisdom. Acting before thinking is regret. Story 179. In the pursuit of perfection, we will obtain excellence. Story 180. For pets, we cannot add years to their lives, but we can definitely add life to their years. Story 181. You are the victim of your choices. Everything you have done in life has led to this moment. When you lose, do not lose the lesson. Good judgment is the result of experience, and experience is the result of bad judgment. Mark Twain. Story 182. Arthur Schopenhauer once said, all truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it is accepted as self-evident. Story 183, from the poem Auguries of Innocence. Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Some are born to endless night. Story 184. Everything good in life is illegal, immoral, or fattening. Story 185. Inconvenience is the price of community. When I was younger, it was easy to find annoying flaws in everyone, withdraw, and become a social hermit. I still have clear boundaries for dealing with genuinely awful people, but being willing to work through smaller inconveniences with the people in my life instead of immediately going nuclear has done me a world of good. Story 186. Even if an animal kills you, it was your fault. Steve Irwin. One of the truest sayings. Animals act out of fear or curiosity. I feed stray and feral cats. I've been bitten, scratched, and nearly attacked. Every time it was my fault because I got too close or tried to do something they did not want. If you do something or walk too close, they will either be scared or defend their territory or their young. Could also be for food, but again, you got too close. You can blame them, but at the end of the day, it was your fault. This is why I do not blame the stingray for killing him. He was messing with it and he got what was coming. It is sad, but he said it himself. Even if they kill you, it was your fault. Another true quote is, "To be loved is to be changed." Author unknown. I feed stray and feral cats. Last year, there was a white cat so severely matted that the fur formed a dome around his body. He also had severe gingivitis that caused so much pain he physically could not eat or drink. The first time I met him, he was terrified. But one day he came up to me out of the blue and started demanding pets. If he had not done that, he would be dead. He was that bad. After surgery, a shave, and a lot of care, he is so bonded to me that he cries when he cannot see me for a few minutes. He is an absolute love bug who loves everything. When I said he was bad, I mean he physically could not eat or drink without flipping and screaming in pain because of his teeth. Because of this, he weighed 4 pounds at 3 years old. When the vets shaved him, he had bruises from the mats on his skin that looked like he had been continuously beaten. While this was going on, he hid for much of the day because he was in pain. He now has almost no teeth and is one of the sweetest cats I know. He is completely healthy now and no longer matted. To be loved is to be changed. Story 187. As someone who writes in their free time, this is the one from Brandon Sanderson. Write it badly. Stop what you are doing, open a Word document, put a pencil on some paper. Just get the idea out of your head. Let it be good later. Write it down now. Otherwise, it will die in there. Story 188. There will always be others who suffer more than you. That does not make your pain any less real. Story 189. Had I not created my whole world, I would certainly have died in other people's. Anais Nin. Story 190. The saddest fact I know as a parent is this. One day you will pick up your child for the last time, and you will not even remember it. Story 191. What is the point of saying not all men if the ones who are guilty are continuously allowed to get away with it? Story 192. Evil, I think, is the absence of empathy. Captain Gustav M. Gilbert, the army psychologist assigned to watching the defendants at the Nuremberg trials. I saw this quote on Reddit years ago, and it has stuck with me. I see people praising immigration and customs enforcement for terrorizing and kidnapping people, and this is what I think of. Kids locked in cages, but thank goodness these criminals are no longer on United States streets. Story 193. Do not expect anything from anyone. Work for everything. Story 194. One day as a tiger is better than 1,000 days as a sheep. Story 195. The problem can always be solved with the materials in the room. Edwin H. Land, inventor of the Polaroid land camera. Story 196. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. Jim Carrey. Story 197. Let us put the women and children to bed and go looking for fucking dinner. Story 198. I might get this wrong, but Julia says, "Hi, Frasier," and "Hi, replacement Frasier" to Niles. Story 199. Life marches on, Chels. I suggest you get on with it. From On Golden Pond. Story 200. I might not be healed, but I'm in a better place than I was before. Story 201. The wolf will never lose sleep over the feelings of the sheep, but no one told the sheep that they outnumber the wolves. Bray Wyatt. Story 202. We are number one. All others are number two or lower. Story 203. Wrestling is not fake. From the movie Ready to Rumble. Story 204. Everyone is going through their own shit. Try not to be a cunt. The bathroom at Carl's in Des Moines, Iowa. Story 205. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Story 206. If everyone threw all their problems onto a mountain, each of us would run as fast as we could to get our own. Confucius. Story 207. All the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you. Story 208. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend time with. Never let them see you sweat. We don't need any stinking badges. Story 209. Anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you are wasting your time on Earth. Roberto Clemente. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.